You know, it seems to me that the Keystep Pro from Arturia and the SH-4d by Roland were made for each other. The Keystep Pro has 4 tracks that seem to perfectly pair with the 4 parts on the SH-4d. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I made this slow generative ambient jam the other day. This is not going to be just a walkthrough of the settings, but it's going to be a breakdown of the musical logic behind the choices I made in putting together this improvisation. So the SH-4d already has a 64-step sequencer, so why supplement it with this sequencing Keystep Pro? I mean, I've used it in the past just by itself and it seemed to work fine to some extent. Now, what the Keystep brings to the party here is obviously the keys. It's much more difficult to try to control these things on the keys that are presented by these little pads down here. They're not as responsive as the velocity sensitive keys on the Keystep Pro. Also, the Keystep Pro allows us to use a mod wheel, which really there's no equivalent like that on the SH-4d. Now it does have a pitch bend, you know, that you can use on the SH-4d, but it's immediate, no control. Much more expressive on the Keystep Pro. So while we do have an arpeggiator of sorts on the SH-4d, I'll go over to this part over here, and we can do like a little arpeggio using these notes. Once we start rolling, there you go. The arpeggio on the Keystep Pro is a bit more intelligent in the sense that, first off, I don't have to hit play like I did on the SH-4d to even activate the arpeggio. I can just put it down. I can implement the hold rather easily. And then from there, I can actually shift how many octaves I use. I can shift the order. And quickly alter the time subdivisions. And one other plus to the Keystep Pro is if I'm using a sequencer, I can alter the probability that any particular step will sound. From 100% chance all the way down to practically no chance. So, how do you connect these two together? It's really simple. You plug power into the Keystep Pro via its adapter here. I mean, you could use USB, but Arturia does recommend using the adapter whenever possible. And with the SH-4d, there's just this USB-C power that you put in the back. Or you can power it via batteries too. That's another option. So you just can supply power to the units. And then you run a MIDI out, which you can barely see here off the back. I got this little CME MIDI out here going to the MIDI in on the Roland SH-4d, and then just connect the audio outs from the SH-4d into a mixer or whatever you're going to be recording or capturing your audio with. Now when it comes to the digital connections, in other words the MIDI channelization from the Keystep Pro to the SH-4d, well, this is one of those areas where it seems like they're made for each other, because out of the box, the Keystep Pro comes with 4 tracks of sequencers, and they are sent to channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4. And the drum track, if you can take the first track and instead of selecting sequence, you can select drums. It's set to channel 10. And likewise, the SH-4d, its 4 parts are set to channel 1, 2, 3, 4, and its drum section is set to channel 10. So right out of the box, they're channelized. If you haven't changed anything from them from the manufacturer settings, you don't need to do anything. If you do, it's really obvious. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this lineup makes muscle memory consistent. You know, track 1 to the part 1. And when I put this into the sound mode, so there you go. Here's part 1 in the sound mode. Here's track 1 here. I know whatever this is, that's what I'm controlling. So again, the SH-4d has 4 synthesizers plus the drum. That's 5 parts. The Keystep Pro only has the 4 tracks, and I'm not aware of anything that allows me to separate the keyboard from one of these tracks and have like a 5th channel I could send it out on. It might be there. Maybe if any of you know, you can write it in the comments, but I'm not aware of anything that allows me to do that. I mean, obviously these are going to be like for tracks 2 through 4 are going to be for synthesizers. I decided whether track 1 was going to be for the synthesizer or the drum. I decided for what I was doing, I was going to use the track 1 to do a sequence and use track, just the drum track. I was going to go straight to the drum track here on the SH-4d and sequence the drums here, because that would allow me to mute and unmute drums. I'll show you here. I just had 3 drums, so it's really easy to mute them and unmute them. And the rest of the muting I do here at the Keystep Pro for the synthesizers. And then when I set the SH-4d to this kind of a mixer mode here, so if you just start up your SH-4d and it's like assigned to whatever synthesizer you have it assigned to. Right now it's assigned to the drum parts. I can assign it to part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And then you can set it to pattern, in which case it shows you all the patterns you can select. But then after pattern is selected, if you select sound, it puts you into this mode with the mixer. That allows these faders here to mix the various synth parts. This knob here will mix the rhythm part in. You can see the chorus, reverb, chorus, and delay settings up here. And this allows these buttons down here to mute the drum parts, and these buttons here mute these parts. But it basically just mutes the sequencer on board the unit. And I'm not using the sequencers on board the unit. Again, I'm using the sequencers here, which is why I mute here at the Keystep Pro. One other aspect of this too is it allows whichever of these channels that are lit to allow these one-to-one knob functions to control that particular synthesizer. So if I bring in my bass drone here, I'll go ahead and mute the rhythm part. And I come over here and I sweep the filter until I reach the cutoff point of, right now it's 561. Now I can control the filter on the bass part. I'll go over to the pad part here, and it's going to take it a little bit. And since we hit this point, you'll hear the notes. And then I select this channel here. Now I can use the filter to affect those parts. So you get this one-to-one knob function, knob per function that is, for the SH-4d for any synth that you want to control. So you get immediate control of 4 different synthesizers, muting of the drum tracks, and then control of the sequencing or the generative ideas here at the keyboard. It's all just right there within easy reach. So I'm going to break down how I set up the sounds on the SH-4d since that's the sound source. I'm going to start with the drums. So on the drum controller, or on the drum part, or the rhythm part, I only used 4 sounds. I used the kick, I used a hat, and I used this DigiWave 2. I'm calling it like it sounds like a kind of a digital wood block or something like that. And that was it. Simple is better. I just used the default synthesized kit that loaded up. I heard it was perfect for my purposes. No reason to change it. So just went with what was there. So as far as sequencing goes, my kick provides like a heartbeat. You see the pattern right there. And if I remember correctly, all the probabilities were set to 100%. Yep. Yep. So this is just going to fire every single time. So for the block, I did the offbeats. And you can see on the fourth step, I have a ratchet. Or basically a substep. So 3 ratchets or 3 substeps that are going to play on that one step. And all these, their probabilities are also set to 100%, so they're always going to sound. Now for the hat, I have all 16 steps going, but I believe each one has a probability of about 83%. You see pretty much all the way straight through the probabilities, 83%. And some of them have substeps. So this 6th step here has a substep of 1/3 or a ratchet of 3 per the step. Then see. There's one here on the 11th for 1/4. Here on the 13th for 1/2. And here on the 16th for 1/2 too, so 2 per step. When I start it, it's most likely they're going to play, but sometimes they don't, and sometimes we get the ones with ratchets, and sometimes we don't. And that adds just a touch of variability in the percussion part, in the rhythm part. All together, they sound like this. And then as far as the sequence was concerned for the rhythm, I just had the sequence go forward only to keep that consistency with the heartbeat and the kick and the offset of the blocks. And again, that hat was adding the variability. Now part 4, I set to a drone. And there's 2 ways you can go about this. I mean, you can play the sequence, or I'll select, I think another pattern here, just a blink pattern. So there's no notes here. I'll hit play. Nothing's happening. The other option is if you're just doing this live in the moment, you can press hold and then play and then hit your note. Which actually is a little bit better because it's tied all the way through. You don't have to worry, or sorry, it's like you tied it all the way through. So it's just an actual drone, which on the SH-4d you have to at least make one note and tie it across to another note. But with this, you just have to do hold. I love this feature of the KSP. But at the time, because I was kind of in a rush and going for consistency and I wanted to start at a controlled point, I elected to do just this one step here, step 1, which you can see lit up. And I don't have to play a note at all. And this drone just gives a kind of like a baseline stability against which all the upper notes, the harmonies, are contextualized. So we can hear them shifting and pulling against it or coming into alignment with it. It adds a lot of interest and stability to the track. And if you're interested, that I just used the SH-4d, one of their synth basses that they created here, and I think, I probably modified a few things here. Sometimes I use the presets, sometimes I modify things, and in the midst of the process, I forget which is which. I'm looking for what is serviceable, not just what is unique, per se. And by serviceable, I mean what serves the work. So moving over to track 3 is where I used a pad, and I chose the Juno 106. I used to play one back in the day. I love it. It makes for some great pads. Go down an octave here. I can get some of the stuff I was using. And this is basically all I did. I had one step where it's these three notes here, this E, B, E, so it's just a root fifth root above the E that's the drone and the bass. And this other step here on step 9, where we go up to G, D, G. And I step them out, I kind of space them out 8 steps apart, which, because when we look at the setting here, we're going to play the sequence forward in poly mode. And these are for the ARP right here, but the time division is going to be quarter note. So it's a very slow moving kind of a beat. Here we go. One of the coolest things about the Keystep Pro is that, like, when you program a step, first off, I can just disable the step and put it back on. It still has all its information, right? Yeah, it does. Bring this back down. There we go. So when you program a step on the Keystep Pro, usually, you know, the gate is going to be just for the length of the step. So we're going to be down here at 1, and it'll sound like this. And we have all this space before the next step. So I believe on the SH-4d, the solution there is to kind of like sequence it across. I mean, you can extend the length, but you can really easily extend the length here just by holding down the step, going to gate, and looking over at the screen here. I can see I'm going up until I have it to 8 steps, which will take it all the way to the next change. I hit play again. And now it connects to the next step. The other thing I did was bring the keyboard up an octave, so later in the improvisation, as this is playing, I can play a melody up here in the keyboard. So I decided that my track 2, part 2, was going to be for arpeggiated plucks. I did 2 things. Originally, I did a sequence here, and these plucks that I'm using are coming off of the SH-4d, the Juno 106 model again. They can extend a little bit more, so they're not just plucks. Now right now, because I had restarted my unit, there's no arpeggiation here. So all I have to do is come down here and hold some notes. So maybe I'm going to hold these. And put on the hold. And we'll get them to resound out. Now you can tell there's already some settings on the ARP, because these aren't all the notes that I held. So if I hit Shift, we can see that we've got +1 octave. And we're going through the sequence random. But there's also, so let me put this in like a normal ARP kind of setting. And we'll go up. So those are the notes in the order that I put them down from bottom to top. There's top to bottom. Here's random. Here's +1 octave. They're going at 16ths currently, but I believe I started them at 8ths because that would sound a little bit better in the mix with the other parts. Give it a more reflective, reverent kind of a feel. But I could change it at will just by shifting the time division from 1/8 to 1/16. Or I can go back to 1/8 and choose triplet. Choose quarter note triplet. Or just go back to 8th note. One of the tricks to using the triplet function here is that you have to disable it per step, or like per time you change. So in other words, if you're playing on like 16ths, and then you go to 8th note, hit triplet, and go back to 16ths, which is actually a really cool effect. But let's say I didn't want that very cool effect. I just want straight 16ths. I have to disable the triplet. So let's go back to 8th note triplets again. To go to 16th note triplets, I have to hit both 16 and triplet at the same time. So that's just something to look out for when you're using the sequencer. The triplet's kind of like held on one way or the other. And so by using these various features of the arpeggiator, I can cluster the notes closer together, spread them apart, spread them out, bring them back in, and even kind of reset them a bit. So I could go or go back to my original idea. And create these, like, what I perceive to be almost like shifting sonic star clusters. It's like looking at the sky and seeing, you know, the clustered groups of stars that kind of come through, and then there's the more sparse kind of, especially when you looked at the sky through binoculars, it's like these little star clusters up there. And track 1, part 1, I chose this morning dew sound. Kind of like a breathy bell or breathy clave or something like that. And then what I did was I sequenced a set of notes, and we can see them here. Let's see, this is going to be G, this one is E, this one is a very low E, interestingly enough. This one is B, this one is D, and this one is an even lower one. So let's see if we go down here. Oh, it's an A. There we go. And we're really high up on the scale too, if you notice where we were. That's 2 octaves up from the default, like, middle C position. And it's very sparse. And the sequence time division is set to quarter note. And there's, I believe, a lot of probability going on with these notes. So yeah, we have randomness of 81. And then here 2. And here 2. It is, yeah, they're all pretty, you know, again, almost like the hats were on the SH-4d, they're somewhat unlikely to play, just somewhat, slightly unlikely to play. So let's solo that out by muting the other channels. And you can see with this one, I could choose walk. And it steps back and forth between, so it's not just randomly going through, but it's more likely to go to an adjacent step with the walk sequence pattern. And I'll put it in context with the bass and the pad. the drone and the pad. And that gives me some space to maybe even play over it. And of course, without the timing from the drums, it's a little bit hard to nail. I wasn't that busy in the original Improv, but that's just, it's an Improv. I had a lot of possibilities laid out. What I actually took advantage of, or what I actuated on, was in the moment. So that leads us to a discussion of form. So what I did was I kind of gradually entered the parts via volume or mute. Given that it's an Improv, I can't remember exactly how I started, because that was just a few days ago, but I think what I did was I started with the drone, something similar to this, and I'll provide a link to the original improvisation. And then I can just add in the kick. Check the location of this, tell it's about to come in. This is the pad, bring it in. I had played a bit with a filter on the drone there. Bring the hat. Oh, this wasn't from the beginning too. And then bring in the Arpeggiated track 2. Play with the timing a bit. And then swap out the arpeggiated part for the more melodic bell, breathy bell lead. I can go back here and maybe set the bell to the arpeggiated part to quarter note. Just anticipation of switching. And then come over here to the pad part and play a lead up here. I was kind of timing things in like 8 measures. And that's about the gist of the form. Now, a couple of things about the form in general is that you want to be in the moment, listening to what's going on. Some of the stuff, again, is kind of generative. I don't know exactly what it's going to do. It's composer indeterminate. So I'm listening to what's happening, listening to what I'm doing, how it's interacting, and deciding what my next step is going to be from there, given my knowledge of the parts that I have, the way they're structured, and what my options are in terms of timing, scale, that sort of thing. The other thing you want to listen to as well is kind of when things are beginning to feel like they're going to wrap up or they need to wrap up. So determining where there's going to be an end. I mean, basically, this rule to improvisation is there's a beginning, a middle, and the end. And when the end comes, you should know it. I know it's kind of a weird thing to say. So, well, how do you know it? You're the one improvising. You're interpreting. Well, yeah, but kind of have your feelers out. Get a sense of like, okay, this feels like a good time to taper down. So, tips, caveats, and things I'd improve next time. So, a couple of caveats in working with the Keystep Pro. One is that this modulation strip right here is really close to the pitch strip. So, if I'm playing a melody here like I was on the track 3 pad, and I try to bring up the modulation wheel here, and I just let my middle finger kind of settle down. It's really easy to trigger it, and you can actually see me do this in the performance. So, now, I mean, if you want it, it can make a really cool effect. I mean, that's one of the cool things about having a touch pitch modulator rather than a wheel, because, and then Arturia kind of talks about this too, is that you can just jump. So, not something I use in the improv, but something I could have. It's a really cool kind of effect. But the thing is, if you don't want it, you got to. For me, because like if you think about it, your middle finger is your longest finger on your hand. So if you use your middle finger here and keep your other fingers up, you're less likely to trigger the pitch strip here. So use this finger when trying to operate the modulation strip. Another caveat is the key velocity. They do have some velocity curves in here. I messed with them. I just couldn't find the right interaction, because that's the other thing. Sometimes you can hear these. It seems to like all of a sudden drop off a clip or just pop out of nowhere. Yeah, that middle area right there is extremely sensitive. So if I ever come up with a solution for better curves, I'll let you know. If you got some good advice, please go ahead and lay it down in the comment about like what kind of curves you feel have worked with the devices you use, or specifically if you got this combination of the Keystep Pro and the SH-4d. So some future improvements that I could do on my improv. One of the things I did was I kind of brought the rhythm out like in the middle. I took out the kick and the hats and all that. And I could have made a return to it. I didn't really make a full return. I could have almost done like a drop. And that would have been cool. So I saw that in kind of retrospect as a missed opportunity. But again, I was in the moment. Another possibility is to vary what I did. So again, I chose to sequence the drums here on the SH-4d and use the Keystep Pro for a drone. But what I could do is just set a drone sequence on the Keystep Pro, which I can enable and disable with these little parts here, or via the volume fader, or even the filter, all tricks I've used in the past. So I have that sequence on the SH-4d, thus freeing up this one, the track 1. I can move to track 4, like the kind of stuff that I was doing on it, the bells or something like that. And then use track 1 to control the drums. And if I put it in poly mode, then each drum sequence can have its own last step, which means you can come up with polyrhythmic material, which itself would have been very interesting and give a completely different feel to the piece than the one that I gave to it, which would have been another different but cool direction to go. And as I kind of noted earlier, I didn't really vary the arpeggio. I don't think at all, but I could have. I was just distracted by other things, and so that's something I could have tried. Little higher registers, sparser notes, different kind of things. I mean, I did play with the time, but I could actually play in different notes with the hold function. Again, to show you kind of how that works. I'll take out the drums here and then play, and we'll speed up the time division. Whoops. Oh, because we're on this one. There we go. I can just shift things here. And then even bring down the octaves. That kind of flattens out the octaves there, so if it was like I had an octave plus range and now it's kind of compressing it. And then you can just open that up. Go to triplet maybe. So there's a lot of variation you can do with the arpeggio that I didn't explore in the improvisation. And the last one I didn't do because I haven't quite learned the trick yet. This is still pretty new to me. And that is kind of doing pattern chaining. So you can get like more of a song structure or something like that. That's some of these more advanced sequencing things, quote advanced sequencing things, I just haven't delved into yet. But that's another thing I'm looking to explore in like a future improvisation. So I'm going to include a link to the original track here so you can go listen to it and see me use all these tricks. If you have any questions or ideas of your own, or like things that you've used with the Keystep Pro or with the SH-4d that have been like successful experiments for you, please feel free to share them in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.